You know, in Ghana, if you're not 50 years old, you cannot be rich or you cannot be successful, mindset-wise.
Wow.
They don't expect young men like us to be able to ascend to a certain level and it be you or on your back. You can't just have a great idea and have some people buy in and ready to invest, and capital is at a minimum here. You won't immediately have investors or believers in your vision. You have to force them to see it. Some may say it's packaging, but it's required. We started one project, then it turned into 3 projects, then it grew to now. In the last 6-7 years, we've deployed about 11 projects across Accra. And
how big
we're
are
doing
these
something
projects that we're talking about?
It's very interesting because we went from 1 house to 8 apartments to 10 houses to 300 apartments. Construction, I had no engineering background, but I'd literally go from site to site, sit with every single, at every level, artisan all the way to engineer, all the way to the top of the chain, which is the supplier, and learn the process. And most people wouldn't invest in that level of education just so they can build a business. It was pure grit. I'll tell you now, and I sit here today, 2018, I cashed in my 401k. Took the full capital gains tax hit and went all in, doubled down. Because for me, there was no way back. It was one direction or the other.
So if you want to take the island, burn the ships. That's essentially what you did.
Effectively, that's it. I didn't even just burn the ships. I burned the ocean right along with the ships.
Welcome to the Superhuman Mindset Podcast.
If you don't have belief in what you're doing, it'll be very, very hard for you to get others to believe and follow on.
What do you want people to remember about you?
And you know, there's a small, still voice within you.
Think deeper, live higher. Most people change their lives by changing their circumstances. But the rare ones, they change their lives by changing how they govern themselves. And today I'm sitting with the expert who is the one that has mastered how to govern himself with identity and leadership. Mr. Neil Oku, welcome to the Superhuman Mindset Podcast.
Thank you. I'm grateful.
See, when I talk to you, it doesn't strike me that your worldview was governed by the things that you learned in the classroom.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting when I look at the metamorphosis of my life progression, where I am today and where I thought I would be in the long span of my career. I recall being a 12, 13-year-old watching a movie called Risky Business, where, you know, it was a trading floor and all this activity and money going up and down. And I always said to myself, it's not that I want to make money, but I want to be in the presence of money being made. And that, to me, that scene is kind of what drove me through becoming an economics major, to then going on to, university and doing finance, and then subsequently to Wall Street.
Wow.
Landing on a trading floor in my first year as an analyst was, for me, the arrival.
The arrival.
That's achieving the dream that I set out to achieve.
Wow.
And my mind at that time, you couldn't tell me anything different. I would ride that wave all the way till my last days. I'd be doing, going once, going twice, buying, all of that. That was the career. That was the life. Until fast forward to now, I would say I'm the most glorious mason and artisan and engineer and construction guru that exists, at least within this ecosystem, where we're doing high-scale real estate and construction. But I didn't set out to be here, but I'd say it's God's gift that we've ended up in the seat that we sit in.
So, trading floor, buy, sell, to being a mason. Bro, what's going on, man?
One would say, in the world of AI, we should have been automating our steps, but now we're that much more immersed in the built environment. Seeing things on a screen is a lot different than walking into what you envisioned, what you've built, and what you expect it to be. And that, for me, I found my true calling in real estate, because there's nothing realer than real estate. I think that was the call for me.
So you found your calling in real estate, but prior to this, you thought your calling was on Wall Street.
Yes, I was an investment banker.
What did it take to make that switch?
I'd say progressively, it was really a build out of doing everything that I thought was predestined for me, enjoying that process, but then realizing that no matter what, the ecosystem that I was in is not really built or set up for us.
Wow.
And when I say us, it's not just a pure, color thing, even though I was one of the few, if not only black, gentlemen in our environment. I was also one of the youngest.
Yeah.
And then the mindset in itself of wanting to change the cliche, we all went to the same schools. We all grew up in the same neighborhoods. We have grandfathers that, came from the same genre. That existence is what drove the corporate environment, at least in the scene that we were born in, being on the street. And some of us coming from, Ghana, my parents were born, raised, unequivocated, from Accra, Kweu, etc. And we weren't, I'll call it, from that pigmentation. So it was almost always like you were the outsider.
Yeah.
But with that being the case, my aptitude, my capability, and my skill set drove me to a point where I could not be denied or I could not be rejected. So promotions, career progression, I was there. I had been acclimated to get to a point where I'm like, okay, no matter what comes at me in the field, I'll make it work.
Make it work.
But then it drew up a little bit of, if I use the same energy to do something that was more inclined to me building it rather than sitting in an environment that was developed by a corporate body for over the last 70 years, what could come out of it? And I think entrepreneurship then got born in me.
Wow.
I decided to move to Ghana 2017 full time and start consulting in finance. And that's kind of the birth of me ending up here where we sit today. And the plan didn't go as, clearly defined as I stated it.
Yeah.
But we attempted to consult. We realized the financial models that are leveraged here in this ecosystem are not where we were coming from, and the progress would take a lot longer. So owning land and understanding the general premises of homes and the rest. We started one project, then it turned into 3 projects, then it grew to now, in the last 6-7 years, we've deployed about 11 projects across Accra. And
how big are these projects that we're talking about?
It's very interesting because we went from 1 house to 8 apartments to 10 houses to 300 apartments.
Wow.
So that's what we call the compounding factor of being a risk taker.
I'm over here trying to slow time down so I can capture exactly everything that you said. You're on Wall Street, you decide to come here, consulting finance, and then all of a sudden you find yourself buying land, and from 1, now we are 300. I'm sure someone is looking at you and going, yeah, he was probably Daddy B. He had money somewhere, and then he had it all come together for him.
We've all heard that one before.
Yeah.
I would say that level of blessing doesn't really come every day. We don't have grandparents with trust funds. We're not Rockefellers or, Vanderbilts. But it was pure grit. I'll tell you now, and I sit here today, 2018, I cashed in my 401k. Took the full capital gains tax hit and went all in, doubled down. Because for me, there was no way back. It was one direction or the other.
So if you want to take the island, burn the ships. That's essentially what you did.
Effectively, that's it. I didn't even just burn the ships. I burned the ocean right along with the ships. So it's not an option of sinking or swimming. You have no other option. And with that level of tenacity and that level of investment, not just monetary, but in terms of your physical well-being, when I believe you put your all into anything you do, especially in Africa and where we are now, in terms of the growth story, for some of us and what we've seen outside or in the West, it's poised for you to succeed.
Maybe most people are not getting this. So this man literally, 401k, for those of you listening that are not familiar with this, that's your retirement fund. So basically everything that you've saved that you want to retire with, you decided to liquidate everything and go to Ghana, in a place that you were not born. You don't have parents here. They are still in the States, I'm assuming.
So my mom had moved back.
Your mom had moved
yes,
back.
Right.
But then you didn't have anything.
No.
You were just like,
full throttle. We're coming home. Let's make it work. Whatever it takes. I had just been promoted, I'd say less than a year before. Taking over a whole new team, corner office. Everything was looking great. Everybody's looking at me like, you must be crazy. But I said to myself, this is the time.
What are some of the things you had to unlearn when you got here to help you be successful?
That's a very interesting question. I had to unlearn all that I had learned. because I don't want to cast it in a negative light, but operating in Ghana, and I could probably say largely Africa in general, it doesn't follow by plan. This is not a PowerPoint presentation and drawing a waterfall diagram and following an execution strategy down to the hilt. Like I kindly phrase that you wake up in the morning with one approach or one strategy and a set of task items. By the time you leave the office 7, 8 p.m., you would have realized the whole plan shifted and it's a whole nother set of things that you've actually gotten done. So one must be acclimated to be able to expect the unexpected and be okay with the ambiguous. Just knowing that you have a top line goal that you want to hit and follow it down to the T.
So it's not like I have a plan, I'm OCD, I'm going to stick to the script. That doesn't work here.
Yeah, OCD doesn't survive in this arena. You'll literally end up in a some form of a vice grip or an asylum, because it is requiring you as an individual to know that no matter what and whatever comes at you, you will get it done and you will succeed. And once you have that inner belief, everything else becomes ancillary. Everything else becomes a part of the story, but that's not the story.
Do you think that only applies to real estate?
No, not at all. I mean, real estate is a byproduct. For me, I could be in any business. I believe very, very strongly that same thing as what we were doing in finance. In my various career fields, we had mapped out different products that we sell to clients. We deliver technology solutions across the board in multiple countries. I didn't know day to day what those clients did, but we found solutions. And now you take that into an entrepreneurial cycle. Right now, mentally, I'm moving on to a few other things that are big deals. I'm going into agriculture, and I don't know the difference between a tomato and a potato. But how to carve out a plan, how to look at it from a strategic standpoint of it growing, how to put in structures for it to make money and return capital. I think it's a general philosophy. So you just now need to fill in the blanks as you go.
So when we were having a chat earlier, I think it was yesterday, you mentioned you had to be a different person and you had to, I don't know if you would call it perseverance, but just know yourself. What were the things that you did that helped you really amplify knowing who you are and how to thrive here?
Yeah, so generally, knowing yourself comes in two folds.
Okay.
You may have a perception of how great you are and what you've done and how well you'll be able to navigate. But I'd say moving to Ghana kind of changed that perception for me.
Okay.
Because just being good at interpersonal relations or having a very strong sense of the numbers and finance and whatnot is not the resounding story.
Really?
Here, you have to go with that added element of people have to be brought on or brought along to your vision. You can't just have a great idea and have some people buy in and ready to invest, and capital is at a minimum here. So you won't immediately have investors or believers in your vision. You have to force them to see it. And that requires a bit of, I'll call it, some may say it's packaging, but it's required. From the sheer perspective of if people don't see it, they don't know it, they haven't experienced it, they won't get it.
It doesn't exist.
And that for me was a complete 180 from where we come from of if you're in the room, you're confident and you can deliver or have a track record, that's the end of the story. That's number one. Number two, psychologically, you had to be very, very clear that you are on this ship. That ship must get from point A to point B. And you may not be the captain, but you have to make sure that all the other shipmates are ready to go on that destination. Because if not, you're running against the current. And you don't always get like-minded people in anything that you do. But here, consensus is like a foregone conclusion. You either bring them along from a sheer perspective of, yes, this is achievable, we can do it, we can meet the time frames, and it's not bigger than we have all made it out to be. For most people, great ideas, they haven't really been able to implement it from scratch. So that in itself is, you have to also germinate a lot of consensus, understanding, and then make it a democratic approach to what you want to do. Unfortunately, money alone doesn't drive you to success. Right? Who you know, it may get you halfway there, but it won't take you to the end of the story.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so a lot of people get that wrong.
So that's a big misconception.
Yeah, completely.
The biggest thing that you hear a lot of people say is, oh, in Africa, it's all about who you know.
Yeah, so you can try that, but who you know in the power circles changes quite often. In our specific case, I'd say every 4 years.
4 years.
But you have to look at how you structure yourself for the long haul. Some of us, we're not a one-trick pony. I don't know how to, there's no going back for us, right?
Wow.
I don't mind. I don't want to be a 747 straight into the sky, but at least I'm gliding. Retrogressing is not an option. So when you lay out a plan, an approach, you come up with a project, a product, what you want to deliver, make sure it's something that is not a trend. It's something that is very, very fastened to a long-term goal, and then you chip away at achieving it.
Discipline versus consistency.
I'd say discipline is the utmost required.
What does that mean here?
Discipline, there is no way to stay consistent in an environment that I just described if you are not that disciplined and structured to make sure you're following your core value system.
Wow.
You'll be consistent in your mind, but your value system is driving you to, shape and shift to suit whoever is in the room or whoever holds the reins to the contract or the agreement, or some of us, where we believe we're going to be able to achieve it and how firmly we want to achieve it. I think that's what we go towards, and we lay out a strategy purely based on the goals that we've set.
Guys, I told you, this is not a motivational conversation. This is a time for us to think and go underneath the surface. If you haven't subscribed, make sure you pause the video and subscribe now. Neil, I gotta take a break, man. Most people have the perception that if you're coming from America, those of us who've been there, this is gonna be my 17th year. It's like, oh yeah, you think you know everything better than us. How are you gonna come up here and then show us? And now you're talking about discipline, consistency, you're talking about packaging. How do you do that in a way that does not come off as you are making everybody else look bad?
The biggest thing that I think sends a lot of people back to America, for example, when they try or attempt to move to Ghana, is thinking that they had all the solutions coming here.
Oh.
That I know, and I've done it before. Like I stated, it's not a philosophy you can go by. For me, I had to strip my ideals and my mentality to going all the way down to the lowest rung, to the bare bones of, example, construction. I had no engineering background, but I'd literally go from site to site, sit with every single, at every level, artisan all the way to engineer, all the way to the top of the chain, which is the supplier, and learn the process. And most people wouldn't invest in that level of education just so they can build a business. One would just purely say you hire the right people and it all falls in place. But you'll be gracefully and humbly awakened that it doesn't operate that way.
What if you're coming from an engineering background and you actually know your stuff?
It doesn't guarantee you anything.
Really?
Yeah, we've seen it over and over again. The technocrat does not necessarily become the most successful person in that business line. Look at the tech space. Most of the IT unicorns are kids that dropped out of college. And it just takes pure resilience, innovation, and grit. Those who have less to lose are the ones that typically take, the long game and then literally go for it. And then you've seen how over time that progresses. And I think that same philosophy is the only way somebody coming from the West, US, UK, whoever, and really looking to do something great is able to adapt in this environment. Because the structure that we're used to is not necessarily the same approach that you'll take things through here.
How do you push yourself when you feel like things are breaking?
That's an everyday struggle. Things are breaking.
Yeah.
As a mason, you have to use cement and put it back together. You can't allow it to fall apart. There will be cracks. That's the honest truth. It's a self-involved attribute to say, we followed something, it didn't work. You have to be honest in yourself to be able to then quickly take a U-turn and reassess and then come up with a revised approach without feeling like you've let yourself or your team down and without taking into concept that the whole thing has failed or fallen apart.
Wow.
If you give up here, there's no waking back up. That's lights out.
So did you have a moment where things just kept on falling apart so much and you asked yourself, maybe it's time for me to go back?
I think I definitely had that light bulb moment sometime 2018, 2019, when we kicked off one of our first projects for sale. And for me, with a little bit of finance behind it, I just thought if you build it, they will come. So we were in construction, going full blaze. No idea of marketing, no AI at the time. So we really were bootstrapping everything we were doing and got very, very far into the construction without putting to mind that at some point we would run out of steam or cash. And then right around the precipice of realizing that we're very, very low and we wouldn't be able to complete said project all the way, we then decided to build a marketing strategy. And that was humbling, because how you market real estate in the States or in the US, going on all these Zillow and all these various websites, is not how it operates here in Ghana. And building that team, it took a very painstaking identification of a marketing manager and a sales team and the rest. And just when we were going to kick off, COVID hit. That to me was the downfall of everything. I thought, this is it, we're done.
Wow.
Lockdowns were coming, doors were closing, people who were supposed to be traveling couldn't go anywhere anymore. And we just had to sit back and reassess. But luckily, the beauty of being in our environment, tropical or not, was our lockdown was only 2 weeks. And literally after we reopened our borders, surprisingly, we just started getting offers for our properties.
So wait. Let's make this real. If I'm trying to sell or buy property in the States, Zillow, Realtor.com, all of these apps, here you telling me is very different.
Yeah, extremely different.
What does that mean?
It's a very manual process here. You have maybe a few people trying to set up databases of property and what's listed and what's available.
Yeah.
And you can, probably gleam at it. But here, the environment of real estate acquisition is really driven by either end users or agents. So it's knowing an agent who knows somebody, or having somebody whose cousin is buying a property and having to have interpersonal relationships that will get you to the source.
Wow.
And casting out that net is not a one-day process. It's not a one-stop, yes, over time. You need to know who plays at which market or at what level of the real estate totem pole, what areas these people are concentrated in, and who to talk to when you're looking for a specific client base.
Okay, so I had some friends that came down and they said, oh yeah, this person told me they were going to bring me to this big person. They brought me to the office. Like, we were literally in the big office. And then only to find out the person that we were supposed to go see had no idea we're even coming. How do you figure out signal versus noise when you meet everybody and everybody here is important?
You have to have your own internal clock or your own internal meter, right? Because if you follow what people say and who people are supposed to be, you'll be chasing your tail forever. It takes time to look through all the smoke and mirrors. Everybody is a big man in a small pond, right? And if you yourself know what you want to do and where you want to go, you actually have taken the steps to then really build up to where you're in the room with the right people.
Yep.
For me, the rest of it is, as you stated, just noise. I don't wake up saying, let me go and meet the top of the totem pole, or let me go and identify who can bless me with the biggest contracts in the world before I actually take the steps to enter a business.
Wow.
If it's a business opportunity, I've uncovered it. I've done my necessary analysis. I've even traveled to multiple countries to see whether or not the proof of concept works. And then I come back and then I put my steps into slate. So I'd say directionally, that whole waiting for somebody to give you a handout and germinating relationships for you is where a lot of people get disappointed.
I'll double click on this for a second. For those of us in the diaspora, buying a property is super easy. Get your funding, get your money from the bank, get the approval, submit it, it's done. How do you guys do this? Man, the properties are...
So look, I really can't make excuses for what you just analyzed and assessed. It's not a joke. Being here and operating in this terrain, financing, especially for real estate, is non-existent. I've had to become my own bank in some cases where we, for one of these projects that we're launching, even this one that we're in, we've developed our own mortgage product and partnered with a bank to say, look, our clients are our clients. Once we assess them, we have funds sitting with you for operational purposes. You can use us as the guarantee to grant mortgages to, the client that is really in need of a property.
Wow.
And it's gone very well. It's made logical sense, but we've had to be the first mover in order to achieve such a thing. Speaking to multiple financial institutions and all these different groups to bring them along was not easy at all. It's an extreme challenge. But luckily, 2 years down the line, I see we've gotten a lot of traction and other people are even trying to level this same model.
So for the folks that are back in the States or in the UK or wherever they are at, that are still looking at Ghana, investing in Ghana, what would you tell them?
I'll tell them there's no better place to be.
Why?
And why? Because here, unfortunately, it's a cash economy, as I've discussed. But the ups and flows and the ups and downs, other than currency evaluation, which has been very stable of recent, what you own here is actually for you. It's not on paper that can be snatched away in a 3-second period just based on some financial crisis. So when I look at physical assets and look at what you actually build and can, take forward to your generations, will always recommend that you look to do something on the continent and predominantly Ghana that gives you a very, very stable macroeconomic environment.
You mentioned, hey, you know what? If you want to succeed here, you got to really be in tune with your inner man. How do you sharpen that?
Yeah, so it's more than, steel sharpens steel, but the real core of anything that you're doing should start on a solid platform. If you don't have belief in what you're doing, you don't have belief in yourself. It'll be very, very hard for you to get others to believe and follow on. And it comes with time. I tell you for a fact, there are days when, I wake up and I'm just not sure, or I believe that this may not go well, but I walk in with my full chest.
Wow.
There's no looking back, there's no crying over spilt milk. You have to really just pull up your pants and climb.
What keeps you going every day?
There's no going back, as I stated. It's an internal battery. Energizer, remember the whole drum? Keeps going. For me, you set out to achieve a goal. And until that goal has reached its full precipice, you have to hit it. You have to achieve it.
So Wall Street was a goal. This, you still working through it. How'd you know you made it?
It's working.
It's working.
Because I'm seeing the fruits of my labor get built, and it's physical. And it's also changing perceptions of a lot of people that thought things like what we're doing couldn't be done here. So if we're able to adjust and modify that narrative, for me, that's the most important thing. Building concrete walls and building rooms and houses and buildings, that's cool, it's great. But every project we do has a new form of innovation. Our first projects were smart homes, automation all throughout. People said internet doesn't work in Ghana. Why are you doing this? We showed them. 4 or 5 years now, everybody in the market is now following suit. With our project flagship that we're doing in Laboni, Heritage 100, we brought sustainable living into play. We have irrigated planters all over, and we built a cityscape. We brought a team from Singapore that were here for 3 months just to do all the analysis and kind of do the sketch design for the engineering. That now I believe will become the beacon of what everybody else will do when it comes to large scale construction.
Wow.
So for me, that's what the driving force is.
Wow. Being the trendsetter.
We don't even call it a trend. We call it the pace. We set the pace.
You set the pace.
Yeah.
Have you been wrong?
We've made some mistakes, yes.
How'd you recover?
We chalk it up as a mistake. We reassessed and we went to option B. And there should always be an option B and a C.
Wow. What are the things that, if we take this out of real estate and you talk to the men, what are the things that they avoid? Because you mentioned, you have to move with your big chest. What are the things that men avoid or is stopping them from being men right now?
I see a lot of people being stuck in what they were told they should be or what they could be.
Ooh.
And perception, for me, is not reality.
Nope.
You as an individual, at some point, I don't care what stage in your life, need to really kind of get to a view of what you were blessed with and what you weren't. I'm not going to wake up now. I must say I was pretty nice on the basketball court, but I'll never be in the NBA. And that's okay, because I've found the channels of where I believe I can always find a way to succeed. Yeah. I know what I'm good at and what I'm not good at. And what I'm not good at, I make sure I subsidize by getting the right people or the right information to get me there. And that's where I think a lot of people are challenged.
Do you think it's important to go figure out what you are not good at and then fix it, or outsource that?
Some things cannot be fixed. You definitely have to outsource or augment. You find a better approach to achieving that thing, or you find what complements that thing that is currently not working for you.
And then you figure it out.
And then you figure it out. And then some things must be outsourced because there are people out there that are better than you in executing it. But one must be okay with that.
Is there a telltale sign for most of us? We talked about not being like a one-show pony. Most of us have different skill sets in so many different areas. How do you figure out that one that you're like, you know what, this is it for me and I'm gonna take it?
I think it comes with the time, it comes with the day, it comes with the stage in which you are in your life.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because you'll identify something and it's a brilliant idea, but putting it on paper and then executing it, you'll find that it's not workable. But then you end up in a situation, you probably didn't even wake up as a business opportunity. There's things that I've ended up, being involved in that were never my specialty or my calling. But just being a part of the team or being able to help structure transaction per se, it's come to life. And what we've ended up achieving is glorious, is great. So those types of things, I think, come with the situation. You'll never just wake up and have it right all the time.
Wow. Man, I want to keep going on this conversation because you are spitting a lot of gems. And I like how you look at leadership with yourself and actually governance over yourself. Is there something that you do every day to keep yourself primed like that? Because it seems like you're just making decisions on the fly and you just got to be accurate.
Yeah, it's pretty intricate. So my work approach for how I used to operate Wall Street, come in the morning, set up my trade blotter, know all the transactions I want to do during the day, monitor my 6 screens, and make sure trading in Hong Kong and London was evaluated with what we were going to do in New York. And then I'd make sure by 11, I've had my bagel and my coffee, and now it's off to the races until the market closed. Here, very different. Like I mentioned, it's extremely consensus driven. So I have to make sure by the time I click off to start working, 7:30, 8 a.m. I've spoken to all my key lieutenants, all the various project managers that I have, and then my suppliers to set up what needs to be done according to the schedule that we have, and then leave a margin, plus or minus 80%.
80% margin.
80% of what could go wrong, and structure it to achieve the end goal for the day. So, directionally, it's a rewind of your circuitry, but it also then lets you feel much more proud of the end result when you've been able to achieve that.
Wow. If we were to go back to Neil coming to senior high school here, what would you tell him?
Oh, that was my first true calling of Africa 101.
101.
You know, think about it. Suburban kid growing up in Long Island, New York, never really having experienced the stresses of boarding school in not only Accra, Ghana, but the heart of the city in the midst of, Presec.
Yeah.
Which is one of our most astute technical and science schools. I was placed right in the center of, we'll call it the abyss. For me, that's lockdown 101. Boarding school was a forlorn conclusion. We had seniors and hierarchy and punishment and all these other things, and you had to learn throughout that whole cycle.
Well, I mean, I think it's because you went to a horrible school, but that's okay.
I know where you went, and
I've gone to Pemper College, but
I would have been a farmer straight away if I went to your school, but
and you would have saved time.
I would have saved time.
You would have saved time. Now you're coming back.
I think I should go to your school at this point. But yeah, that experience.
Yeah.
When I look back now, was probably one of the most pivotal points in my life, because that's what actually got me wound to enjoying Ghana, enjoying the experience, and developing the network of who is who and what is what, and then growing to a point where I wanted to move back and enjoy it. If I wouldn't have had that, maybe 3 years, I'd say I'd probably still be in America plugging away and, enjoying the trappings of what it looks like being successful is, or being a part of the 1%. But being able to go with the punches of boarding school here and all of that is what drew me to Ghana. It made me feel like I can do anything anywhere.
I'll ask my last question, and then I think because this I need to take this in. This man has just poured a lot of gems. Oh, my producer says keep going. He says keep going. So you came down, you had family. Now you've built all of these properties. How's your relationship been like in terms of building a business versus merging that with, how everything in Ghana is like, who my family this, my family that. How did you navigate that?
Yeah, I mean, for me, the creature comforts of having a family that was from Ghana was definitely helpful and representative, just because when you work hard, you crack your brains, you almost always have a way to go and get some fufu at mama's house, or go and somebody will, deliver you some jollof, so that all helped. But we weren't able to just leverage the card of my uncle's the minister or my grandfather was the king and all of that. We had
Which is important here.
It's important, very important. Who do you know? Where are you from? Who's your mother?
Who's your mother? What name do you have?
But surprisingly, I mean, we had a solid network because we had people planted and grounded here. But we didn't use that card because what we were doing was a space that if you're going to grow at scale, it has to be shrouded away from like who did it, or, in Ghana, if you're not 50 years old, you cannot be rich or you cannot be successful, mindset wise.
Wow.
They don't expect young men like us to be able to ascend to a certain level and it be you or on your back. So I kind of made a conscious effort to really just be clear that this is our operation, that I'm willing to bootstrap it where I bring people along and make them believers rather than them relying on where I came from or who was in my family.
Hold on. So most people come down and the first thing they say is, you know what, I need to belong. I need to be associated with somebody that has a name, big brand, whatever it is. My uncle, something. You saying, screw all of that.
Nah. I think that was the death of a lot of people who actually had very good, solid foundations coming here. Riding on the back of other people's past glories are what ended up tripping a lot of very ingenious people up. Because once that past glory is not the wind behind you anymore, you as an individual can not stand on your own too.
Wow.
And in seeing that, I didn't want to, fall on the, the success of or the curse of somebody else. I wanted everything to be on my own terms and to draw a plan and chart that course where people saw me coming. People have seen the stages of our progression, where we went from 1 to 2 to 8 to hundreds, right? And with that, you may wonder, oh, how is he being so bold and taking all these drastic decisions and all of that? But for me, in reality, what do I have to lose? In my mind, I came with nothing.
Wow.
So it's either I go all out and, make it work, or I leave with nothing.
Wow.
That's just a little I have to offer.
It's you, yourself, against the world. Everything is riding on your back. Like, your approach is just, most people think about going, they're like, yeah, this is the idea that I have. I'm going to come back to Ghana. I'm going to roll. I'm going to figure it out. I have all these people in these right places. That's it. That's my green light. And you're telling me, bro, this is you. This is your life. As a matter of fact, don't even try to do that association. Because if I talk to Neil, right, like 3 top people said, you got to talk to this man before you hop on your flight.
I receive it. If they know the daily wahala, which I'm sure they all of those gentlemen are quite illustrious in their own field. But I am not eating my grapes just yet. I'm not frolicking in the forest thinking that we've achieved and arrived. Every day is a constant step to the next level, to what we would consider or define as greatness. So we're pushing. And that mentality, I think, will get us to the precipice of what will truly be greatness. Because for me, I won't shift my life and change some of the key things that we've done over time to just be basic in any field or in any sector.
One of the things that you do so well is you do all of this and you still stay underneath the radar. How do you keep moving when no one is watching?
It's shocking. I was with a gentleman earlier this morning and he said, like, you're the most famous anonymous person that I know, or in his respect.
Yeah.
Like, people know my work, know what I'm doing, are heralded and applauded by it, but they don't know that I'm the one doing it. And I'm okay with that. Because generally, you can see a Picasso on a wall and it's a great painting. You won't even have a signature below and know who painted it.
To stay at 100 and blazing all the time, what does it cost?
It's a constant reassessment of you as an individual. You have to be ready at all times to wake up and realize that you may be veering off course because you're going fast. And doesn't mean slow down, it just means you may have to shift a gear or two. And most people find that very, very difficult. They think if directionally it doesn't look like it's going well, or people may think that you made mistakes and that means you as an individual are flawed or you were never truly supposed to be there. I don't question where I'm supposed to be or where I'm going. I assess as I go in how to get there, and that's it.
So at every point in time, you are assessing yourself and saying, am I where I'm supposed to be? Have I done what I set out to do? Do I feel good about where this is going? And for me, those are the only true questions that matter. If you feel good about it.
If I feel good about it, my core values, I think it's meant to be. And we're prayerful. So we put that into the equation as well.
Wow. How has prayer shaped all of this for you?
I tell people all the time that God is my architect. The level of project, the level of dynamics, the different things that we're learning on the fly, you couldn't just do it from an isolated one person, individual, my brain perspective. There has to be some form of a higher calling. There has to be some secret sauce that, I'd say the Almighty is blessing us with, because it would not be humanly possible to be able to structure all these various things that we do and still live a sound life.
Bro, I did not see you at Alpha Hour I haven't seen you at a long all-night conference doing like 24/7 prayer. Yeah, you're laughing, but I'm serious. How are you surviving and doing all of these amazing things?
Yeah. For me, I like even my works, my projects. The same thing with my religion. I don't wear it on my sleeve. I don't need you to see me speaking in tongues. I don't have to extol and say everybody is blessed. I don't expect to push my views on anybody. But having my own beliefs and making sure that synchronizes with my core religious outlook is what makes me, I believe, successful.
Wow.
People can try to cast certain lights and put out perceptions of who they are, but you might actually see in their dealings that it's not that way. For me, I go into every room as me. And with that, if you are not a true believer in what you've been blessed or ordained to be on this earth to do, I think you'd struggle as an individual. And I don't. I go to sleep perfectly fine.
When do you find time to come to home base and do that connection and then have that synchronization?
I'd say for me, it's almost every day.
Wow.
It's almost every day. When I get home, when I with my family, when I see my parents, when I'm with my friends I grew up with, when I get back to the States and check in with people over the summer, or where all of these things run me through my history and tell me who I have been and assess who I should be going forward.
Wow.
So if you don't, it's a compass, right?
Yeah.
You don't lose your north. You always know what direction to walk in.
I think the most impactful thing that you shared, and I remember, I scuba dive. So I remember one time I was down there, probably like 75 feet deep in the ocean, and trying to navigate my way to my destination. And I kind of looked around because I saw this fish. It was so cool. Next thing I realized, I checked my compass and I'm way off. And then I had to try to find my way back. What you are telling me is putting all of that into perspective, that constant reassessment, where you are at, how are you, most importantly, feeling about the decisions you are making, and then still going back to what you set off to do. That's that compass, that's that guide point. It's so interesting that most people do not sit to do that.
No, we lie to ourselves. I see it all the time. We set up a false image of us or how we're perceived, and that doesn't allow us to break beyond the veil of our true calling, our true person, and our true feelings. I mean, it's interesting to find out that you scuba dive. I mean, I don't know who's in your village that's been advising you, but that doesn't really go well in our ecosystem. But hopefully your air tanks stay on cue. But it's a perfect analogy for what I'm describing as you as an individual. Be okay to reset. Be okay to not be okay.
And the resetting is not once a year.
No.
It's every day.
No. I made a mistake. I'm wrong. What's next?
Guys, this has been a deep and impactful conversation. And I think we need to do more. We need to have more time to talk to Neil about this. What's next?
For us, we're opening doors to next level opportunities, projects, business. We're jumping into a foray very left of construction, which is agriculture. We've just acquired some land, very large tract. What we plan on farming, we're still looking into it, but the structure that we're going to bring is more of a small crop shareholding structure, similar to a lot of what's done in the Caribbean, and build it out to empower a lot of other people in the value chain to also support a big, massive project liftoff. So that between now and the end of year is one of our core focal points. As it comes to the built environment in real estate, we're moving the gamut. It's not only just residential and commercial. We're now building or looking to build out full-blown ecosystems, communities. So it's a concept that really hasn't picked up here in terms of urban planning and urban development.
Yep.
But our strategic goal is to acquire large tracts of land, either through partnership with various stakeholders and the state involved, or building out through foreign funding. That we take a whole area and just go.
Wow.
So we have 2 projects in the kitty. It's huge, it's audacious, but I'm sure you guys will hear about it very, very soon.
We can't wait. If you were to do everything all over again, what would you do different?
I'd spend less time trying to figure out what and who is doing what, and focus more on what we can do immediately. Understanding the landscape is extremely important, but I realized you can create your own landscape. You'll fall in a few potholes, don't get me wrong, but you'll fill them and keep going. So for me, it's just dust your shoulders off and plug away.
What does superhuman mindset mean to you?
I think we've spoken about it. For me, it's not even superhuman.
Yes.
It's being bold, audacious, and ready.
Ready.
The mindset in itself is bulletproof. You've set your mind to one thing, and that is the goal. You achieve it by any means necessary, while taking into account that you are a true believer in what you set out to do. The rest falls into place.
Wow.
That's why I believe it's so great that I've been party to this fantastic series that you have.
Neil, you've blown my mind. You've got me thinking a lot. And I cannot wait to implement some of the things that we've talked about. Guys, this is the Superhuman Mindset Podcast. Think deeper, live higher. Neil, thank you for coming on the show.